Welcome back to Newsmakers. We are discussing police in Canterbury. We are with Superintendent Dave Cliff. As you will be aware, burglary has been spiralling in Canterbury. In the latest police statistics for 2008, burglary increased by 16% in the Canterbury region. That was 7,000 burglaries last year, which equates roughly to about 1 in 25 households. Is it still spiralling this year?
Yeah, probably one of the most frustrating parts around burglary is the fact that, yes, there's still an increase. There's a significant amount of it around that Riccarton area where we've got a lot of student flats. And despite the best efforts of our community constables involved in those areas, we're still having people making the same basic old mistakes about doors not being locked, windows being left ajar. So personal security, taking responsibility for locking away your valuable items and securing your house, the most basic precautions are not being taken often.
I know that burglary is one of your key target areas, as a goal and as an aim to bear down on and combat. What I think has surprised or disturbed a lot of people is that increase last year of 16% for Canterbury is way higher than virtually any other police district in New Zealand. Manukau recorded a decrease in burglary. Why is it that we are being hammered so hard in Canterbury?
Well, I guess you'd have to put it down to a relatively small group of criminals that we are aware of that are the subject of targeting. What we've also found is we can put away a group of offenders who are heavily involved in burglary, and they'll often get good periods of imprisonment. I think what we've struck this time is a group that have come out of prison, have coincided with a group going in.
Right.
Independent of that, what we've also found is the economic relationship between increases in burglaries, as in more people become unemployed, puts pressure, and therefore you can often see spikes around dishonesty offending in general, particularly around shoplifting, not related to burglary directly. But it is absolutely a priority. It's an invasion. When people arrive home and find that their most precious possessions have been rifled through, it's an absolute violation, and people feel highly aggrieved by that, and understandably so. So it is a priority for us.
Do you think to some extent it underscores the magnitude of the drug problem we have in Canterbury?
The drug problem here is significant, but in terms of overall crime, the vast bulk of it is caused by the abuse of alcohol in terms of family violence and street disorder.
The rise in burglary, I'm just wondering, as opposed to alcohol-related crime,
yes,
the general rule of thumb seems to be, a lot of burglary is being fuelled by the need to buy your next fix.
Yep, the burglary issue is definitely related often to drug abuse, as in feeding a drug habit.
Yeah.
The only cold comfort I guess I can give people is, despite the fact that we've had a lift, we're still nowhere near other parts of the country in terms of the overall level of offending. So Canterbury, in comparison with many other parts of the country, still remains having low crime rates in general.
Why do we have such a low resolution rate in burglary?
I guess it's the thing about the offence is people do not do it when they're going to be seen. So the way in which we investigate burglary is we collect evidence from the scene, we look for DNA and other evidence types. But in terms of resolution, it's a difficult one. It's often not seen, as an assault is often seen and there's a witness to it because someone is being assaulted. Or disorder is self-reported by police, for example, as in a lot of other crime type. But burglary is inherently difficult. We've also got large rural parts of the Canterbury district, which again are very difficult for people to see. So traditionally, dishonesty crime, it does have a relatively low clearance rate in comparison with other crime types.
I don't mean to get you to comment on an isolated case, but I've received a lot of correspondence from viewers recently who are concerned at the lack of police attention to burglary. And just to illustrate the point, a woman in St Albans wrote to me to tell me about how her house was broken into, her credit card stolen. An hour or so later, the credit cards were used at a petrol station and a bank in Maryville. Surveillance camera footage was available. The police never picked it up, and when she rang the police to say, "Why haven't you followed this up?" "We're sorry, we're too busy." Is that the exception to the rule?
Yeah, if we get a case like that, we have to look into it to find out the details of what actually occurred. At first telling, things can appear to be, seem to be, quite a shocking lack of service, but you actually delve into it, there's a whole lot more to it. So, for example, the surveillance footage was looked at and was useless because the face was covered. I'm not saying that's the case here. I simply don't know, but it's extremely difficult to try and give a response.
Yeah.
If you were to say to me that 100% of incidents are dealt with completely properly and there are no ways we can improve, well, clearly that would not be the case. We've got people working for us who do not always get it right, and that's the nature of every organisation.
Would the vast majority of burglary complaints, though, end up just essentially being binned into volume crime and not actively investigated?
Well, we have to, I guess, to some degree, we're similar to a health service. The desire for police service is almost unlimited. The calls for service go up at a rate of somewhere between 5 and 6% every year. Clearly, the numbers of police don't. We've noticed since the proliferation of cell phones that the amount of reporting we have around things like suspicious persons, car crashes, unacceptable driver behaviour have totally spiralled in the last few years and really keep on going up along the same lines as mobile phone ownership. So we absolutely do have to provide a prioritisation of them. So if we have an offence reported where there is no obvious line of inquiry, although we note it within our intelligence system so we can keep track of patterns, it may not result in someone actually actively investigating per se simply because there's no line of inquiry.
Just in a general advisory sense, if a viewer feels they haven't had a good deal from the police, perhaps they've got some information which they feel the police just won't act on for whatever reason,
yes,
overworked, whatever, what should they do?
Well, across the district we have sergeants, senior sergeants, community constables who can all accept information. So if you know who your local community constable is, they're certainly a good port of call. Yeah. That's the first option. The second one is if it's something, obviously if it's happening immediately and requires an emergency sort of response, then 111 is clearly the way we want people to contact us, or otherwise the general police station numbers.
Should they come to you?
I prefer not. No, but and the other way, of course, if there's a difficulty with service, a complaint around particular service, then they can write direct and we can follow that up.
All right. Coming up, we'll have a look at safety in our city, crime cameras, of course, they've been expanded recently, and trust and confidence in our police. Plenty ahead, do stay with us.